Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Analysis on Talika, the newest and latest nature legendary monster, the newest and latest team race monster. Talika is like a grandmother to all creatures in the forest, especially General Alsis, who always comes to her for advice and comfort. She usually doesn't intervene in his battles, but when the weak are in danger, she leaves her peaceful life aside and runs to protect them. And so here we have Talika. As I already mentioned, she is the newest nature monster. And every time a nature monster gets released, I'm always worried. Because from the past, what we've seen with nature monsters, for whatever reason, that category, that element, doesn't seem to have the best monsters. They could have a great monster design, they could have good stats, but then we look at the skills and we're like, what the heck? Or we'll look at the trait and we'll be like, immunity to poison? Why do you have immunity to poison? You need hardened, everyone needs hardened now. But anyhow, with that story aside, let's move on to actually analyzing Talika's stats, her trait, and her skills. So first off, right off the bat, her power is 3069, which is an incredibly low power for a nature monster. There are currently a total of 38 nature legendary monsters, and with a power like this, it puts her tied for 33rd place, with Drek actually. But don't worry about that. The thing about nature monsters, a lot of them, they're not attackers. They're like what kind of nature symbolizes. They're healers, they're supporters, they're not there to attack. And so you can completely disregard her power because that's actually the case with Talika. She's not offensive, she's more for denial purposes and to support. Which moves us on to the life stat of 35,588, which is an incredibly high life stat for a nature monster. This life stat actually puts her tied for 4th place with Nadiel the Pyromancer, and she falls just below Okiawa, Altus' bodyguard, and Nadiel the Flooder. So an incredibly high life stat. And then her speed stat. She is officially the fastest nature monster in the game. Well, she's actually tied with Living Forest. However, Living Forest, he can't do too much, whereas Talika, just wait till I get to her skills, she can do a lot. And so considering that Talika is going to have a denial skill, Talika is officially the fastest denier in the nature category. And furthermore, because a lot of players probably got this monster rank 3, maybe even rank 2 from the team race, you're going to be seeing a lot of players running around with a really fast nature monster who can deny you and who can support her team. And on top of that, her trait is in fact hardened. All status effects have a 20% less accuracy against it. It's really the best trait to have if it's not something that the generals have, tough, or the VIP monsters, some of the nemesis monster, bulwark. Hardened, best trait, especially with all these different effects coming out. As for what book she's in, I currently don't have any knowledge of that, although I can imagine females is definitely going to be a book, and I can even imagine good legions. So that's just my guess, but I don't really know. But as for Relic, she can hold Essence Relic and the Amulet Relic. And the thing about this monster being able to hold these relics is that it makes her a force to be reckoned with. So the Amulet Relic, that has a lot of healing. In fact, one of the easiest, best relics you can get in the game is the Bronze Relic, the Healing Relic, which just recovers a monster's HP by up to like 25k or like 22.5k if it's maxed out to level 25, and that's super easy to get. So considering this monster has a high life stat, and then you can give her this relic that can recover her life, she's gonna be hard to take down. And then on top of that, she even has the Essence Relic, which again has a lot of healing, whether for herself or for her team. And if you're fortunate enough to have a Revival Relic, that's Uriel's Essence, if she were to die, she can actually even come back from the dead. So incredibly tough monster to kill. She has the hardened trait, so not that easy to deny, and she's going to be incredibly fast with an amazing life stat, and a lot of players are going to have this monster at rank 3. So far, so good. We have what appears to be a really great nature legendary monster, one definitely worthy of being a team race monster. And now let's take a look at her ultimate, Burning Bushes. Deals very heavy nature damage to all enemies, disables traits on all enemies, applies poison and ignite to all enemies. Wow, we have a trait disable AoE that also does ignition and poison, which together will reduce the enemy's HP by 30%. Poison doing 10%, ignition doing 20%. It doesn't matter what trait they had because it's not like they can have immunity to poison or ignition because the very first thing you do is trait disable. And so pretty darn good ultimate. Now of course it didn't have any denial, which would have made it even far superior, like imagine if it even did possession on top of that. And it also unfortunately doesn't remove good effects, so it's still possible for the enemy monsters to have a shield or a buff, life regeneration, but still the poison and ignition, I do like that, and the fact that you trait disable, that's also really good. So ultimate, I like it a lot. And as for skills group 1, there's nothing really worth mentioning with the exception of maybe this skill right here. And I only like this because it costs no stamina, has no cooldown, and it can give one of your monsters a damage boost while also removing any negative effect it may have. That's pretty cool, but not going to be needed because just wait until you see skills group 2 and 3. And speaking of which, in skills group 2 we have Ricinus Drop. Deals moderate special damage to one enemy, applies 2 stuns to one enemy, requires cooldown. 35 damage, 35 stamina cost, 1 turn cooldown, And so essentially it's a stun, it's a 2 stun. Now let me make this incredibly clear. 2 stuns is not the same as Mega Stun. I'm going to repeat that for emphasis. 2 stuns is not the same as Mega Stun. 2 stuns is far better than Mega Stun in my opinion. Reason being is because of monsters that have the Harden trait, or the Bulwark trait, or the Tough trait. Basically, when you have a skill like this right here, drop, that does 2 stuns, basically you have 2 chances to stun. It's kind of like using Kihaku's freeze and possession skill. You have, even against a monster that's hardened, yeah, they have a 20% chance to guard the freeze, but then assuming it does guard the freeze, there's a 20% chance to guard the possession. So you have 2 tries, so you have a higher likelihood of actually landing something. Whereas if you were just to mega freeze, 20% remains 20%. Or for example, if you go after a monster that has the Bulwark trait, you know, if you mega freeze, 50% chance to land. But if you go against a monster that's Bulwark and you try to use drop, well, you might miss the first stun, but you might not miss the second. Or you might land the first and miss the second. So 2 stuns, really great. So if you're wondering why this stun skill had a 35 stamina cost, that's probably why. What surprised me is that it only has a 1 turn cooldown, meaning you're definitely going to be able to use this more times than once if needed. So 95 accuracy, I always love single skills because sometimes I believe you just need to make sure you mobilize one enemy monster, one main threat. Like imagine if you're facing a Ruby and then your Talika is just faster because you gave her good runes and she has a great base speed. And then the enemy monsters, the support monsters, the teammates, they're not really that big of a threat, but you're scared of Ruby. Instead of doing an AoE, you can just go for that stun. Use Rissinus drop against Ruby and just make sure you stun her, make sure you mobilize her, that way she can't do Ruby explosion against you. And if you're ever talking about this monster with other players, just make sure to emphasize that 2 stuns and Mega Stun are 2 totally different things. Next up we have Jin-Sang. Applies double damage to one ally, removes all negative status effects from one ally, requires cooldown. So this skill costs 20 stamina with a 2 turn cooldown. You target one of your allies and that ally gets double damage just for 1 turn, but you also remove negative effects. So a skill like this is really useful to set up for your attacker, especially if your attacker was hit with some sort of negative effect. Maybe it was an immobilizing effect, maybe it lost its turn, or maybe it reduced its power output. Well, thanks to this skill right here, any negative effect they may have had, or maybe they had a torture effect and they would have died next turn. Well, you completely get rid of it and they get a double damage boost, which is going to make them hit hard on the following turn. And so I definitely like the skill, but I don't love it. My main issue with this skill is that double damage only lasts for 1 turn, and that kind of sucks. We're used to seeing double damage last for at least 2 turns, which makes it kind of harder to set up combos. Also, I don't like that it's only a single ally, because there are plenty of other monsters that can do a team skill that can even give like increased accuracy and remove negative effects. So the skill can definitely be useful, especially because Talika is going to be the kind of monster you want to give 3 speed runes to go first, to AoE deny or single deny, and then on the next turn maybe set up for your attacker. So it can still definitely work, but I just want to say I'm not the biggest fan of it. Next up we have Quinine. Deals moderate nature damage to one enemy, heals allies by 30%, requires cooldown. So this skill deals 30 damage, costs 18 stamina with a 2 turn cooldown. All of your allies heal by 30%. Didn't I say earlier that nature monsters, they're supportive monsters, they're healers? Well, this monster has exactly that. She can buff and remove negative effects, or she can heal your whole team by 30%. I love this skill a lot just because of that healing aspect. Keep in mind she has relics that can heal, she has a high life stat, she has the harden trait which makes her hard to immobilize. I would definitely say run this skill. Having healing skill is always useful, it can come in handy. And with that said, we can move on to skills group 3, Rissinus Seeds. Deals moderate special damage to all enemies, applies 2 stuns to all enemies, requires cooldown. 35 damage, 54 stamina cost, 3 turn cooldown. And I'll admit, the first time I saw this monster, I was like, 54 stamina cost for a stun skill? What the heck? But again, this isn't just a regular stun skill, it's not even a mega stun skill, it's 2 stuns, which is amazing. Amazing. Only thing I don't like is the 90 accuracy because for some reason you always seem to miss on the worst times. But anyhow, once again, because there's just 2 stuns, it is a really great skill. This is your must-have skill. Rissinus Seeds for sure. And then if you're like me that loves that extra increased accuracy even at the cost of not hitting everyone, also be sure to run Rissinus Drop. Some of you might be opposed to running both skills, but I would highly recommend both skills. But with that said, I don't really need to go more over this skill because I already mentioned 2 stuns, not 1 stun, definitely not mega stun. Be sure to run it. Anyhow, next up we have Maka. Applies the shield 40% to all allies, removes all negative side effects from all allies, requires cooldown. I love this skill also. So 23 stamina cost, 2 turn cooldown. Your whole team gets a 40% shield and any negative effect they may have is gone. And seriously, what's not to love about this skill? What I love about shields as opposed to healing is that if your monsters are close to their max HP or at max HP, they get an extra type of protection. And so maybe Maka is the type of skill you use with Talika on turn 2, because hey, after maybe you did your 2-turn stun, one of the enemy monsters didn't get stunned, and then maybe they hit one of your monsters, or maybe they applied an AoE DOT and now all of your monsters have nightmares or burning or ignition or something, in which case you can remove that and then give all of your teammates a 40% shield, and then on the next turn if you're running Quinine and your monster did take damage, you can recover their life by 30%. So she has a lot of great support, a lot of great deny, and as for the last skill we have Sage. Deals heavy nature damage to one enemy, applies stamina regeneration, and immunity to poison to all allies, requires cooldown. And so we have yet another support skill, this time that affects your stamina. She can give your whole team stamina regeneration, and as an added bonus, immunity to poison. Now honestly, I don't really care too much about the immunity to poison aspect, but at the same time, you never know when it could come in handy and actually might save you. But the stamina regeneration is nice. And so essentially, when you look at the monster, we have a monster that can give your whole team stamina regenerations, so they don't need to worry about recharging their stamina. We have a monster that can give yourself a shield while also remove negative effects. This is to your whole team, by the way. And you have a monster that can heal your whole team by 30%, and on top of that, do the 2-turn stun, or single target 2-turn stun. Or if you want, you can apply double damage to a single ally, and remove negative effects from that ally. And so the question is, what skills should you run? Because you have 6 potentially good skills. And honestly, it's just going to go down to player preference. Once again, I think the obvious answer is Seeds. You want Seeds. It's your AoE denial skill. You're going to be incredibly fast. You're going to have this monster ranked up, hopefully. Talika is probably going to become your main go-to nature deny monster when you need one. So be sure to run Seeds. After that, it really comes down to preference. Considering she has all of this support, you might be thinking, I don't need another double stun. What's the point of that? So you could completely drop if you wanted to. And so if that's your mentality and that's your thinking, you can completely disregard Rissin's drop. But then you're still in the dilemma of 4 other skills to choose from. So again, you have double damage to single ally and removing negative effects, which can certainly come in handy. You have a skill that can heal all of your allies by 30%. I think this one really depends. If you're choosing between Quinine and Maka, I would go with the shield, because this is only a heal, whereas Maka is a remove negative effects and a 40% shield. So even in terms of just life, the immediate effect of Maka is far superior than just healing by 30%. And even though Quinine does deal a bit of damage, it's only 30 damage on a monster that has a low power. So Quinine, I think if you're debating between any skill to maybe not run, you might be able to choose that one. And then Sage. Stamina regeneration. As nice as stamina regeneration is, there's also plenty of relics that can take care of what this skill does. And then the immunity to poison, like I said, not that important. So I would even say you could forego Sage. My ideal skill set for this monster would be Rissin's Seeds, Maka, Quinine, and Rissin's Drop. Although with that said, once I actually have this monster, I might consider doing Rissin's Seeds, Maka, Jin-Sang, and then one of these 2 skills. And I'm really leaning towards Drop just because, like I mentioned, Maka has a better immediate effect than Quinine. And really, in a match, if you go first with Talika and you double stun everyone, on the following turn, setting up for your attacker it's a really good play, or giving your teammates a 40% shield and removing negative effects. If it goes to a 3rd turn, well, by that 3rd turn, that's when you want to single immobilize again with Rissin's Drop. I don't know if I really want to do a team heal. So that's my skill set, but now I want to hear from all of you guys. What would be your ideal skill set on this monster and why? What would be your strategy? What skill would you do first? Second? Let me know in the comments below. I am really curious to hear your guys' thoughts. As for runes, I think it's pretty obvious. Considering this monster's high base speed, as I said, considering a lot of players will get this monster ranked, you want to go 3 speed runes. Give this nature monster your best speed runes, because we finally have a competitive nature monster that can seriously kick some butt. With that being said, I'm Armor Gaming. Really hope you guys enjoyed this analysis, and I'll see you all next time.